Imagine stepping into LA's hottest spot, Starlight Grill, where chandeliers gleam and jazz hums, only to be hit with shade so cold it stops the room. That's what happened to Malik Jordan, a 7-foot legend in a hoodie and Nikes, when a server named Claire decided he didn't belong. She smirked, tossed him a menu like it was trash, and scoffed, "You sure you can afford this?" The crowd gasped, forks froze, and whispers flew. How dare she? Claire's jabs kept coming, each one sharper, thinking she had Malik panned as a nobody. But here's the kicker. She had no idea who she was messing with. Malik wasn't just a guest, he was the man who owned the place. What happens when her world flips upside down? Will she crash, or will Malik's truth change everything? Buckle up, because this night's about to explode, and you won't believe how it ends. The Starlight Grill glowed like a beacon in downtown LA, its neon sign cutting through the twilight. Inside, crystal chandeliers cast a warm, golden light over tables draped in white linen. The air buzzed with the clink of wine glasses and the soft hum of jazz, a Miles Davis classic weaving through the chatter. This wasn't just a restaurant. It was a stage for LA's elite, where Hollywood execs and tech moguls dined on Wagyu steaks and sipped $200 bottles of Napa Valley Cabernet. Tonight, though, something was about to shift. A man was about to walk through those glass doors and turn this polished world upside down. Who was he? And why would one night at Starlight Grill become the talk of the town? The glass doors swung open, and a towering figure stepped inside. Malik Jordan, over 7 feet tall, moved with a quiet confidence that seemed to hush the room. His gray hoodie, loose sweatpants, and scuffed Nikes stood out like a sore thumb among the tailored suits and designer dresses. Heads turned, whispers rippled. Was that the Malik Jordan? The basketball legend turned business tycoon? Or just some guy who'd wandered into the wrong spot? Malik's eyes scanned the room, a faint smile tugging at his lips. He wasn't here to impress. He was here for something else, something nobody saw coming. At a corner table, Tasha, a 20-something influencer with a knack for spotting drama, nudged her friend. "Yo, that's Malik Jordan," she whispered, her eyes wide. "What's he doing here dressed like he just left the gym?" Her friend, scrolling through Instagram, barely looked up. "Nah, can't be. Dude's a millionaire. Why is he looking like he's about to mow the lawn?" Tasha smirked, sensing a story brewing. She leaned back, sipping her rosé, ready to watch the scene unfold. Something told her this night was about to get real interesting. Behind the hostess stand, Claire, a seasoned server with a sharp tongue and sharper attitude, sized Malik up. Her perfectly pressed uniform and slicked-back ponytail screamed professionalism, but her eyes betrayed a flicker of disdain. "Who does this guy think he is?" she thought, scanning his casual getup. Claire had worked at Starlight Grill for years, priding herself on knowing who belonged and who didn't. In her mind, Malik was out of place, a glitch in the restaurant's flawless vibe. She straightened up, her smile tight. This was her turf, and she wasn't about to let some rando disrupt it. Malik approached the hostess stand, his deep voice warm but firm. "Evening. Got a table for one?" Claire hesitated, her fingers hovering over the reservation book. The jazz swelled, a trumpet solo slicing through the tension. "This is a fine dining establishment," she said, her tone dripping with condescension. "Are you sure you're in the right place?" The words hung in the air, sharp enough to draw a few gasps from nearby tables. Malik's smile didn't falter. "Pretty sure," he said, his eyes locking with hers. What was he hiding behind that calm facade? Across the room, Mr. Ellis, a retired basketball coach with silver hair and a knowing grin, leaned toward his wife. "That's Malik Jordan," he murmured, his voice thick with nostalgia. Coached him back in '98. Kid had a heart bigger than his game. Mrs. Ellis raised an eyebrow, glancing at Malik's hoodie. "Doesn't look like a star tonight," she said. Mr. Ellis chuckled. "Oh, he's a star all right. Just wait. Claire's about to learn that the hard way." Their words were a quiet promise. Something big was coming. Claire flipped open the reservation book, her movements deliberate, like a queen guarding her castle. "Let me check," she said, her voice laced with fake politeness. She scanned the page, though she already knew there were tables free. The scent of seared steak and truffle oil wafted from the kitchen, mingling with the tension. Tasha, still watching, pulled out her phone, ready to record if things got messy. "This is gonna go viral," she whispered. Claire shot Malik a sidelong glance. "Follow me," she said, her heels clicking as she led him, not to a prime table, but to one tucked near the service area, where the clatter of dishes drowned out the jazz. Why was she doing this? Malik settled into the rickety chair, the table wobbling under his weight. The spot was a far cry from the plush booths reserved for VIPs. Claire dropped a menu in front of him, her smile more smirk than service. "Enjoy," she said, turning on her heel. The room seemed to hold its breath. Tasha's jaw dropped. Mr. Ellis shook his head, muttering, "Big mistake." Malik, unfazed, opened the menu, his fingers tracing the list of dishes. He wasn't just here for dinner. He was here to teach a lesson, one that would echo far beyond these walls. But what was it? And how would Claire react when the truth came out? The jazz band shifted to a slower, bluesy tune, the saxophone weaving a story of its own. Every eye in the room darted toward Malik, some with curiosity, others with pity. Tasha's fingers hovered over her phone, itching to tweet. Mr. Ellis sipped his bourbon, his eyes gleaming with anticipation. Claire, back at the hostess stand, tossed her hair, oblivious to the storm brewing. She thought she'd won this round, but the night was young, and Malik Jordan wasn't the man she thought he was. What secret was he hiding? And when it dropped, who would be left standing? Stick around. This is just the beginning. The Starlight Grill pulsed with the rhythm of a Friday night in LA. The jazz band leaned into a sultry saxophone riff, and the scent of sizzling Wagyu steak hung heavy in the air. Malik Jordan sat at his wobbly table near the service area, the clatter of dishes a stark contrast to the plush booths across the room. His gray hoodie and scuffed Nikes drew curious glances, but his eyes, sharp, steady, told a different story. This wasn't just a man out for dinner. He was a force, waiting for the right moment. Claire, the server, watched him from the hostess stand, her lips curling into a smirk. She thought she had him figured out. Oh, how wrong she was. What would happen when her assumptions crashed head-on with the truth? Claire strutted toward Malik's table, her heels clicking like a metronome against the polished wood floor. Her pristine uniform hugged her frame, but her attitude was sharper than the steak knives on the tables. She'd seen guys like Malik before, or so she thought. Big, casual, out of place in a spot like Starlight Grill. To her, he was just another wannabe, trying to flex in a world he couldn't afford. "Here's your menu," she said, tossing it onto the table with a flick of her wrist. Her voice carried a sting. "Hope you know what you're getting into." The nearby tables fell quiet, ears perked. Was she really going there? Malik just smiled, unfazed. What was he planning? Tasha, sipping her rosé at a corner table, couldn't believe her ears. Did she just shade him like that? She hissed to her friend, Maya, who was now glued to the scene. That's Malik freaking Jordan. Does she not know who he is? Maya shrugged, her eyes darting to Claire. Girl, she's digging her own grave. Tasha's fingers twitched over her phone, itching to live tweet the drama. She could already see the hashtags. Hashtag Starlight Fail. Know your VIP. The jazz band hit a high note, amplifying the tension. Tasha leaned forward, sensing a storm brewing. Claire was playing with fire, and Tasha was ready for the fireworks. What would Malik do next? Across the room, Mr. Ellis adjusted his glasses, his weathered hands resting on the table. He'd coached Malik back in the day, seen him rise from a scrappy kid to a legend. She's got no idea, he muttered to his wife, his voice low but laced with amusement. Mrs. Ellis raised an eyebrow, her pearl earrings catching the chandelier's glow. He doesn't look like he's sweating it, she said, glancing at Malik's calm posture. Mr. Ellis chuckled. That's Malik. He's always 3 steps ahead. The old coach's words hung like a prophecy. Claire thought she was in control, but Malik was setting the stage. For what, though? The room was about to find out. Malik opened the menu, his fingers tracing the list of dishes. Lobster risotto, truffle-crusted scallops, a $200 bone-in ribeye. Claire hovered nearby, her arms crossed, watching him like a hawk. Need help with the prices? She asked, her tone dripping with mockery. A few diners gasped, their forks pausing mid-bite. The audacity was unreal. Malik looked up, his eyes twinkling with something. Amusement? Confidence? I'm good, he said, his deep voice cutting through the jazz. I'll take the ribeye, medium rare. Claire blinked, caught off guard. He'd just ordered the priciest dish like it was nothing. Who was this guy? The room buzzed with whispers. Tasha nearly choked on her rosé. He ordered the ribeye like it's a burger at In-N-Out, she whispered, her eyes wide. Maya grinned. Claire shook. Look at her face. Sure enough, Claire's smirk faltered, her cheeks flushing as she scribbled the order. She hadn't expected that. The jazz band shifted to a slower, bluesy tune, the saxophone weaving a thread of tension. Tasha pulled out her phone, her thumbs flying. Y'all, this server at Starlight Grill is wild, shading a VIP like he's broke. Stay tuned. The tweet was already racking up likes. Something big was coming. Everyone could feel it. Mr. Ellis leaned back, sipping his bourbon. She's gonna regret this, he said, his voice thick with certainty. Mrs. Ellis nodded, her eyes fixed on Malik. He's too calm. That's not just confidence, that's power. The old coach's words carried weight, like a warning shot. Malik wasn't just enduring Claire's shade, he was letting her dig her own hole. The clink of glasses and the hum of conversation seemed to fade, the room zeroing in on the drama at Malik's table. Claire, oblivious, tossed her hair and sauntered back to the hostess stand. She thought she'd won, but had she? What was Malik waiting for? Claire leaned against the hostess stand, whispering to a coworker, "Can you believe this guy? Ordering a $200 steak like he's ballin'? Bet he'll bolt when the bill comes." Her voice carried, sharp and careless, drawing glares from nearby tables. Tasha's jaw dropped, her phone now recording. "She did not just say that," she muttered. Mr. Ellis shook his head, his expression darkening. "Big mistake," he said again, louder this time. Malik, still at his table, caught Claire's words. His smile widened, just a fraction. He wasn't rattled. He was ready. For what? The answer was coming, and it would shake Starlight Grill to its core. The jazz band hit a crescendo, the trumpet blaring like a call to action. The air in Starlight Grill crackled with anticipation. Every eye darted between Malik, calm as a summer lake, and Claire, strutting like she owned the place. Tasha's tweet was blowing up, retweets piling in. Mr. Ellis set his bourbon down, his eyes gleaming with the thrill of what was to come. Malik leaned back in his chair, his gaze steady, almost playful. He wasn't just a customer. He was a man with a plan that would turn this night into a legend. What secret was he holding? And when it dropped, who would be left speechless? Don't go anywhere. This is about to get wild. The Starlight Grill thrummed with a restless energy, the jazz band's saxophone weaving a thread of suspense through the air. Malik Jordan sat at his corner table, the clatter of dishes fading into the background as he studied the menu with a calm that felt almost electric. His $200 ribeye order had thrown Claire off her game, and now the whole room could feel the shift. Tasha, her phone still poised, whispered to Maya, "He's playing her like a fiddle." Across the restaurant, Mr. Ellis's eyes gleamed with the thrill of a game he knew Malik would win. Claire, though, was doubling down, her pride blinding her to the storm she was stirring. What would she do next? And how long could Malik's cool hold before the truth came crashing down? Claire stormed back to Malik's table, her heels snapping against the floor like gunfire. The jazz band hit a low, moody note, amplifying the tension. She clutched a water pitcher, her knuckles white, and set it down with a deliberate thud. "Need anything else?" she asked, her voice syrupy sweet, but laced with venom. "The ribeye's a big commitment. Sure you're up for it?" A few diners froze, their forks hovering. The nerve of this woman. Malik looked up, his smile unwavering, a glint of amusement in his eyes. "I'm good," he said, his tone so smooth it cut through her sarcasm like butter. Claire's smirk twitched. Was he mocking her? Or was something bigger at play? Tasha's jaw dropped, her rosé forgotten. "She's still coming for him," she hissed, her thumbs flying across her phone. "This server at Starlight Grill is wild, shading a VIP like he's nobody. Hashtag drama alert." The tweet was racking up retweets, the internet catching fire as fast as the tension in the room. Maya leaned in, her eyes wide. "Why's he so chill? I'd be losing it by now." Tasha grinned, sensing a viral moment. "He's got a plan, girl. Bet he's about to flip the script." The jazz swelled, a trumpet blaring like a warning. Every eye in the restaurant darted to Malik's table, waiting for the next move. What was Claire thinking, pushing this far? And what was Malik hiding up his sleeve? Mr. Ellis sipped his bourbon, his weathered face creasing with a knowing smile. "She's in over her head," he murmured to Mrs. Ellis, who was now glued to the scene. "Malik's not just a player, he's a chess master. Always has been." Mrs. Ellis adjusted her pearl earrings, her voice soft but firm. "She's gonna crash and burn, isn't she?" Mr. Ellis nodded, his eyes fixed on Malik's steady posture. "Oh, she's already lit the fuse." The old coach's words were like a drum roll, building anticipation. Claire thought she was running the show, but Malik was the one setting the stage. For what, though? The room was buzzing, and the answer was closer than anyone thought. Claire, back at the hostess stand, leaned toward her coworker Jake, her voice loud enough to carry. "This guy's acting like he owns the place," she scoffed, tossing her hair. "Ordering a ribeye? Please, he'll choke when he sees the bill." Jake, a lanky kid new to the job, shifted uncomfortably. "Maybe he's just hungry," he mumbled, but Claire waved him off. Hungry for attention, maybe. Her words sliced through the air, drawing glares from nearby tables. Tasha's phone was now in video mode, capturing every second. She's done for, Tasha whispered, her eyes gleaming. Malik, catching Claire's jab, let out a low chuckle, barely audible. Was that a sign? Was he about to strike back? The jazz band slowed to a haunting melody, the saxophone curling around the room like smoke. Malik leaned back in his chair, his hands resting lightly on the table. He wasn't just calm, he was in control, his every move calculated. The scent of truffle oil and seared steak wafted from the kitchen, but the real heat was at his table. Claire strutted past, deliberately ignoring him, her tray balanced with drinks for another table. Some people don't know their place, she muttered, loud enough for Malik to hear. A few diners gasped, their whispers growing louder. Tasha's video was live now, the comments exploding. This is insane! Who's this guy? Malik's smile widened. What was he waiting for? The clock was ticking. Mr. Ellis set his bourbon down, his voice low but urgent. She's pushing too far, he said, his eyes narrowing. Malik's not the type to let this slide. Not like she thinks. Mrs. Ellis nodded, her gaze flicking to Claire's smug expression. He's giving her rope, isn't he? Letting her hang herself. The old coach's metaphor landed like a punch. Malik wasn't just enduring Claire's shade, he was letting her build her own trap. The room felt smaller, the air thicker, as if the walls themselves were leaning in. Tasha's live feed was blowing up, her followers demanding to know who this mystery man was. The jazz hit a sharp note, like a signal. Something was about to break. Something big. Claire, oblivious to the mounting tension, sauntered to a nearby table, flashing a fake smile at a group of suited execs. Another round of Napa Valley Reds? She chirked, her voice all charm. But her eyes kept darting to Malik, her irritation growing. Why wasn't he rattled? Why wasn't he leaving? She leaned toward Jake again, her voice sharper. Bet he's Googling how to pay a $200 bill right now. The jab drew a few chuckles from her coworker, but the diners weren't laughing. Tasha's video caught it all, the comments flooding in. Fire her! Who's the guy? Malik, still at his table, tapped his fingers to the jazz, his eyes glinting. Was he biding his time? Or was he about to drop a bombshell? The Starlight Grill was a powder keg, the jazz band's final notes hanging in the air like a held breath. Every glance, every whisper, zeroed in on Malik's table. Tasha's live feed was trending, the internet ablaze with speculation. Mr. Ellis leaned forward, his voice a low rumble. Here it comes, he said, his eyes locked on Malik. Mrs. Ellis clutched her napkin, her heart racing. Claire, still strutting like she owned the night, had no idea the ground was shifting beneath her. Malik's calm was a ticking clock, each second bringing her closer to a reckoning. What was his next move? And when the truth hit, who would be left standing? Don't blink. This night's about to explode. The Starlight Grill was a pressure cooker, the jazz band's trumpet slicing through the air like a warning shot. Malik Jordan sat at his corner table, his calm like a storm waiting to break. Claire's latest jab, Betty's Googling how to pay a $200 bill, still hung in the air, sharp and reckless. The room buzzed with tension, forks pausing, eyes darting. Tasha's live feed was blowing up, her phone vibrating with notifications. This is next level, she whispered to Maya. her voice trembling with excitement. Mr. Ellis's jaw tightened, his bourbon glass forgotten. Claire thought she was untouchable, but the tide was turning. The diners weren't just watching anymore, they were ready to act. What would they do? And what was Malik holding back? Tasha slammed her rosé down, her eyes blazing. "Enough is enough," she snapped, shoving her chair back. "This girl's out here acting like she owns LA, shading a man who could buy this place." Maya grabbed her arm, wide-eyed. "Tash, chill, you're gonna make a scene." Tasha shook her off, her braids swinging. "Good. Somebody needs to." She flagged down a server, her voice sharp. "Yo, where's your manager? This ain't right." The jazz band slowed, the saxophone curling around her words like a spotlight. Heads turned, whispers swelling. Tasha wasn't just a bystander, she was a spark, and Starlight Grill was about to catch fire. Was Claire ready for the heat? Or was Malik still one step ahead? Across the room, Mr. Ellis leaned toward his wife, his voice a low growl. "That girl's about to learn a lesson she won't forget." Mrs. Ellis nodded, her pearl earrings glinting under the chandelier's glow. "She's picking a fight with the wrong man," she said, her eyes flicking to Malik's steady posture. Mr. Ellis's fingers tapped the table, a rhythm born of years coaching stars like Malik. Back in '98, he took down a whole team without breaking a sweat. This is child's play. He paused, his gaze sharpening. But he's not here to win, he's here to teach. The old coach's words were a drumbeat, building towards something massive. What lesson was Malik planning? And who would deliver the final blow? Claire, oblivious to the storm brewing, strutted to a table of suited execs, her smile all charm. "More Napa Valley Reds?" she purred, tossing her hair. But her eyes kept darting to Malik, her irritation boiling over. "Can you believe that guy?" she muttered to a coworker, loud enough for nearby tables to hear. "Thinks he's ballin' yous that hoodie. Bet he's sweating the bill already." The execs exchanged glances, one raising an eyebrow. "Cool it, Claire," he said, his tone clipped. "Not your call." Claire froze, her smirk faltering. The room was turning on her, and she didn't even see it. Tasha's live feed caught the moment, comments exploding. "She's done." Was this the beginning of her downfall? The glass doors swung open, and Miss Rivera, the manager, stepped into the fray. Her tailored blazer and no-nonsense vibe screamed authority, her heels clicking with purpose. Tasha's call had worked. She was here. "What's going on?" Miss Rivera asked, her voice low but firm, her eyes scanning the room. Tasha jumped in, her words spilling out. "Your server's been dogging this guy all night, acting like he don't belong. It's messed up." Miss Rivera's gaze landed on Malik, and her face softened, a flicker of recognition passing through. "I'll handle it," she said, her tone a promise. The jazz band hit a high note, the tension spiking. Was Miss Rivera about to drop a bombshell? And what did she know about Malik? Malik, still at his table, caught Ms. Rivera's glance. His smile widened, just a fraction, like he'd been waiting for this. The scent of truffle oil and seared steak filled the air, but the real heat was the drama unfolding. Claire, now sensing trouble, hovered near the hostess stand, her hands fidgeting. "What's the big deal?" she muttered to Jake, her voice shaky. "He's just some guy." Jake, wiping down a tray, shook his head. "You're playing with fire. Stop." But Claire wasn't listening. She was too deep in her own game, blind to the fact that Malik was the one holding the cards. What would Miss Rivera do next? And how much longer could Claire keep this up? Tasha's phone was a live wire, her feed trending with hashtags. Hashtag Starlight Drama and Justice for VIP. "This is bigger than I thought," she whispered to Maya, her eyes gleaming. "People are mad." Maya nodded, her gaze fixed on Miss Rivera. "Bet she knows who he is. Look at her face." The jazz band shifted to a bluesy riff, the music wrapping around the room like a heartbeat. Diners leaned forward, their whispers growing urgent. "She's out of line," one said. "Somebody needs to check her." Another added, "The Starlight Grill wasn't just a restaurant anymore. It was a stage, and Claire was center spotlight, whether she liked it or not." Was the crowd about to take her down? Or was Malik still calling the shots? Mr. Ellis stood, his chair scraping softly against the floor. "I've seen enough," he said, his voice carrying the weight of years on the court. He caught Miss Rivera's eye and nodded toward Malik. "You know who that is, don't you?" Miss Rivera's lips twitched, a secret dancing in her eyes. "Oh, I know," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Mrs. Ellis clutched her napkin, her heart racing. "He's not just a customer, is he?" she asked, her voice trembling with excitement. Mr. Ellis grinned. "Not by a long shot." The room seemed to tilt, the air thick with anticipation. Claire's smug facade was crumbling, and Malik's calm was a ticking bomb. What truth was about to explode? The jazz band hit a crescendo, the trumpet blaring like a call to war. Every eye in the Starlight Grill was locked on Malik, Claire, and Miss Rivera. The tension so thick you could cut it with a knife. Tasha's live feed was a wildfire, comments flooding in. "Who's this guy? Fire her now." Mr. Ellis sat back down, his eyes gleaming with the thrill of what was coming. Claire, now visibly rattled, clutched the hostess stand, her confidence unraveling. Malik tapped his fingers to the music, his smile as cool as ever. He wasn't just a man at a table, he was a legend, and the room was about to learn why. What would Miss Rivera say? And when the truth dropped, who would be left standing? Stay tuned. This is about to get real. The Starlight Grill froze, the jazz band's trumpet fading into a single haunting note. Malik Jordan sat at his corner table, his calm a stark contrast to the storm brewing around him. Ms. Rivera's heels clicked as she crossed the room, her eyes locked on Malik. The air crackled with anticipation, every diner leaning forward, forks forgotten. Tasha's phone was live, her feed exploding with comments. "What's happening?" Mr. Ellis's grin widened, his bourbon glass glinting under the chandelier's glow. Claire, clutching the hostess stand, felt a chill. She'd pushed too far, and now the truth was coming. What was Miss Rivera about to say? And how would Claire handle the fallout when Malik's secret dropped like a bomb? Miss Rivera stopped at Malik's table, her voice steady but warm. "Mr. Jordan, I'm so sorry for the mix-up," she said, loud enough for the room to hear. "It's an honor to have you here." A gasp rippled through the crowd. "Mr. Jordan?" Tasha's jaw dropped, her rosé spilling. "I knew it," she hissed to Maya. Claire's face drained of color, her hands trembling. Miss Rivera turned, her eyes sharp. "Malik Jordan isn't just a guest. He's a co-owner of Starlight Grill." The words hit like thunder, shattering the room's tension. Diners froze, eyes wide. Claire stumbled back, her smirk gone. Malik's smile was cool, unshaken. What had she done? And what would he say next? Tasha's live feed went wild, comments flooding in. "He owns the place? Fire her!" She zoomed in on Claire's pale face, whispering to Maya, "This is iconic. She's done for." Maya shook her head, stunned. "How you miss Malik Jordan? Girl, she's toast." The jazz band paused, the silence deafening. Every eye was on Malik, his hoodie and Nikes now a badge of defiance against Claire's shade. Mr. Ellis leaned back, chuckling. "Told you," he said to his wife. "Kid's always been a game changer." Mrs. Ellis clutched her pearls, her voice soft. She never saw it coming. The room waited, breathless. Would Malik unleash his wrath, or was something bigger coming? Claire's knees wobbled, her breath catching. I didn't know," she stammered, her voice barely a whisper. The execs at the nearby table glared, one muttering, "You should've." Miss Rivera's face was stone, but her eyes flicked to Malik, deferring to him. He set his menu down, his movements deliberate, and stood. At over 7 feet, he towered over the room, his presence commanding. The scent of truffle oil faded, replaced by the weight of his silence. Then he spoke, his voice deep and clear. "Respect ain't just for the rich. It's for everybody who walks through those doors." The words landed like a gavel, silencing every whisper. What did he mean? And what was next for Claire? The room erupted in soft applause, led by Tasha, who clapped like she was at a Lakers game. "That's right," she shouted, her phone still recording. The execs joined in, their claps sharp and approving. Mr. Ellis raised his bourbon glass, a quiet salute. "That's my boy," he murmured, his eyes gleaming with pride. Mrs. Ellis nodded, her voice trembling. He didn't need to yell. That's power. Claire stood frozen, her hands clutching the hostess stand like a lifeline. Her eyes darted to Malik, then away, shame burning her cheeks. The jazz band eased back in, a slow, soulful tune wrapping around Malik's words. Was this the end of Claire's reign? Or was Malik just getting started? Miss Rivera stepped closer to Malik, her voice low but firm. "I'll handle this, Mr. Jordan. This won't happen again." Malik raised a hand, his smile gentle but unwavering. "Hold up, Miss Rivera. Let's not rush." He glanced at Claire, his eyes not angry but piercing. "Everybody gets a chance to learn." The words hung heavy, a lifeline and a challenge. Claire's breath hitched, her face a mix of fear and confusion. Tasha's live feed caught it all. Comments screaming, "He's too nice. She don't deserve it." The room leaned in, hungry for more. What was Malik planning? Was he really letting Claire off the hook? Or was this part of a bigger lesson? Tasha's phone buzzed nonstop, her followers losing it. "He's a king," she whispered, zooming in on Malik's steady gaze. Maya nodded, her eyes wide. "He's not even mad. That's wild." The diners were buzzing, some shaking their heads at Claire, others nodding at Malik's grace. The scent of seared steak and the clink of glasses felt distant. The room zeroed in on the drama. Mr. Ellis leaned forward, his voice low. "He's giving her a shot, but she better take it." Mrs. Ellis sighed, her voice soft. Not everyone gets a second chance like that. The jazz swelled, a hopeful note cutting through. Was Claire ready to change? Or would she double down? Claire's coworker, Jake, stepped up, his voice shaky. "Claire, maybe say something," he urged, his eyes darting to Malik. Claire opened her mouth, but nothing came out. Her hands trembled, her confidence shattered. Malik sat back down, his posture relaxed, but his presence filled the room. "I'm still waiting on that ribeye," he said, his tone light but pointed. A few diners chuckled, the tension easing just a fraction. Tasha's live feed was trending nationwide. Hashtags like Starlight King flooding Twitter. The Starlight Grill was no longer just a restaurant. It was a stage for a reckoning. What would Claire do now? And how would Malik's lesson unfold? The jazz band hit a soulful crescendo, the saxophone soaring like a call to rise. Every eye in the Starlight Grill was on Malik, his calm a beacon in the chaos. Tasha's phone was a wildfire, her followers chanting for justice. Mr. Ellis sipped his bourbon, his grin wide. "That's how you flip the game," he said. Claire stood frozen, the weight of her mistake crushing her. Miss Rivera's gaze was steel, but Malik's was something else. Hope, challenge, power. The room held its breath, waiting for the next move. This wasn't just a night out. It was a moment that would echo far beyond L.A. What would happen when Claire faced Malik alone? Don't go anywhere. The real lesson's about to begin. The Starlight Grill. Simmer in the aftershock of Malik Jordan's truth. The jazz band eased into a soft, soulful melody. The saxophone wrapping the room in a hush. Malik's words, "Respect ain't just for the rich," still echoed, a challenge to every heart in the place. Claire stood frozen at the hostess stand, her face pale, her hands shaking like leaves in a storm. Tasha's live feed was a wildfire, comments screaming, "King energy, she's gotta go." Mr. Ellis sipped his bourbon, his eyes locked on Malik, proud as a coach watching his star shine. The air was thick with questions. Would Claire crumble? Or would Malik's grace give her a way out? One thing was clear. This night was far from over. Malik leaned back in his chair, his hoodie and Nikes a quiet rebellion against the Starlight Grill's glitz. His gaze settled on Claire, not with anger, but with a weight that made her squirm. "Claire," he said, his voice low and steady, "can we talk for a sec?" The room gasped, forks clinking as diners leaned in. Claire's breath hitched, her eyes darting to Miss Rivera, who nodded curtly. "Go," Miss Rivera said, her tone sharp but curious. Tasha zoomed in, whispering to Maya, "This is it." He's about to read her for filth. But Malik's calm was disarming, like a tide pulling back before a wave. What was he about to say? And could Claire handle it? Claire shuffled toward Malik's table, her heels dragging like they were stuck in molasses. The jazz band's notes hung heavy, mirroring her dread. She stopped a few feet away, her arms crossed, her face a mix of shame and defiance. "I didn't know who you were," she mumbled, barely audible. Malik raised an eyebrow, his smile gentle but piercing. "That's the problem, Claire. You didn't need to know me to treat me right." His words cut deep, not loud, but heavy. Like a truth she couldn't dodge. Tasha's phone caught every second, her followers gasping in the comments. "He's preaching." Mr. Ellis nodded, murmuring, "That's my boy." Was Claire ready to listen? Or would she push back? Claire shuffled toward Malik's table, her heels dragging like they were stuck in molasses. The jazz band's notes hung heavy, mirroring her dread. She stopped a few feet away, her arms crossed, her face a mix of shame and defiance. "I didn't know who you were," she mumbled, barely audible. Malik raised an eyebrow, his smile gentle but piercing. "That's the problem, Claire. You didn't need to know me to treat me right." His words cut deep. Not loud, but heavy, like a truth she couldn't dodge. Tasha's phone caught every second, her followers gasping in the comments. "He's preaching." Mr. Ellis nodded, murmuring, "That's my boy." Was Claire ready to listen? Or would she push back? Tasha lowered her phone, her eyes wide with respect. "He's real for this," she said to Maya, who nodded, stunned. Most folks would have fired her on the spot. Across the room, Mr. Ellis raised his bourbon glass, his voice low. "That's Malik, always teaching, never preaching. Mrs. Ellis dabbed her eyes with a napkin, her voice trembling. He's giving her more than she deserves. The jazz band picked up, a hopeful riff cutting through the tension. Claire's shoulders slumped, her defenses crumbling. "I'm sorry," she said, louder this time, her voice raw. "I was wrong." The room softened, a few downers nodding. Was this her turning point, or just the start? Malik stood, his 7-foot frame towering, but not threatening. "Sorry's a start, Claire," he said, his tone warm but serious. "But it's what you do next that matters. Treat every person who walks in here like they own the place, 'cause they might." A few diners chuckled, the tension easing. Claire nodded, her face flushed, tears spilling. "I will," she said, her voice barely holding. Ms. Rivera stepped forward, her eyes softening. "We'll talk later, Claire. For now, get back to work." Tasha's live feed erupted. "She's crying! Malik's a legend!" The Starlight Grill was shifting, and Malik was at the heart of it. What would his next move be? Claire retreated to the hostess stand, her hands still trembling. Jake, her coworker, gave her a small nod. "You okay?" he asked, his voice gentle. She shook her head, wiping their eyes. "I feel like an idiot," she muttered. "He didn't even yell." Jake shrugged. "That's worse, right? Makes you think." Across the room, Tasha was still live, her voice hushed. "Y'all, this man just turned a mess into a masterclass. Hashtag Starlight King." The diners were buzzing, some raising glasses to Malik, others whispering about Claire's tears. The jazz band's melody soared, a note of redemption in the air. Was Claire really changing? Or was this just a moment? Mr. Ellis leaned back, his eyes gleaming with pride. "That's how you lead," he said to his wife, who nodded, her pearls catching the light. He didn't need to raise his voice. He just showed her. Mrs. Ellis smiled, her voice soft. "Not many can do that." Malik sat back down, his ribeye finally arriving, steaming and perfect. He picked up his fork, his smile easy, like the storm had never happened. But it had, and the Starlight Grill was different now. Tasha's live feed was trending worldwide. Hashtags like #RespectMatters flooding Twitter. The room was alive with possibility. What would Claire do with this chance? And what was Malik's bigger plan? The jazz band hit a bright, hopeful chord, the Starlight Grill pulsing with new energy. Malik's calm had rewritten the night, turning a clash into a lesson. Claire, wiping her tears, took a deep breath, her eyes flickering with something new. Resolve? Shame? Tasha's phone buzzed, her followers chanting for more. Mr. Ellis raised his glass one last time, his voice a quiet promise. This ain't over. The room watched Malik, a man who'd turned judgment into justice without breaking a sweat. The stage was set for something bigger, something that would echo far beyond LA. What would happen when Malik spoke to the whole team? Don't move. This story's just heating up. The Starlight Grill was quiet now. The last diners gone, the jazz band packed up. Only the soft hum of the kitchen and the glow of chandeliers remained. Malik Jordan stood in the center of the dining room, his hoodie and Nikes, a stark contrast to the polished space. The staff formed a loose circle around him, their faces a mix of nerves and awe. Claire lingered at the edge, her eyes red from crying. Tasha, still live streaming, whispered to Maya, "This is about to be legendary." Mr. Ellis and his wife stayed at their table, unwilling to miss a moment. The air was heavy with expectation. What would Malik say to this team? And how would his words change Starlight Grill forever? Malik's voice filled the room, deep and steady, like a preacher on a Sunday. Y'all, this place ain't just about fancy food or big checks. It's about people. He paused, his eyes sweeping over the staff. Jake's nervous fidgeting, Miss Rivera's firm nod, Claire's bowed head. I helped build Starlight Grill to be a home for everybody, no matter who they are or what they're wearing. The words landed soft but heavy, a call to something bigger. Tasha's live feed buzzed, comments flooding in. Preach, this man's a hero. Mr. Ellis leaned forward, his bourbon forgotten, his eyes gleaming. Was this just a speech? Or was Malik about to drop a truth that would shake them all? Claire shifted, her hands twisting in her apron. Malik's gaze landed on her, not accusing, but encouraging. I grew up in South Central, he said, his voice softening. Kid with holes in his sneakers, dreaming big, but getting judged small. Folks looked at me and saw a stereotype, not a person. The staff leaned in, the room so quiet you could hear a pin drop. One day, a coach, guy like Mr. Ellis over there, saw past the worn-out kicks, gave me a shot. Mr. Ellis's eyes glistened. His wife squeezing his... Malik stepped forward, his 7-foot frame filling the space. That's what Starlight Grill is for, he said, his voice rising. To see people, not stereotypes. To give everybody a seat at the table. Jake nodded, his eyes wide. Miss Rivera's stern face softened, a tear glinting. Claire's shoulders shook, her breath hitching. I messed up tonight, Malik continued, his tone raw. Not 'cause Claire got it wrong, but 'cause I let this place slip from what it's meant to be. The admission stunned the room. Tasha whispered, he's taking the hit? Her live feed erupted. This man's too real. Was Malik blaming himself? Or setting up something bigger? Tasha lowered her phone, her voice hushed. He's not just talking, he's changing the game, she said to Maya, who nodded, eyes misty. This ain't just about Claire, it's about all of us. Across the room, Mr. Ellis raised his glass, his voice thick. That's leadership, right there. Mrs. Ellis dabbed her eyes, whispering, he's making them better. The staff stood straighter, some wiping tears, others nodding. Claire looked up, her face raw but resolute. I want to do better, she said, her voice trembling but clear. The jazz band's absence left a silence that felt sacred. Was Claire's promise real? And how would Malik seal this moment? Malik smiled, a warmth that lit the room. That's all I ask, Claire, he said, his voice like a hand extended. Do better, not for me, but for every person who walks through those doors. He turned to the staff, his eyes fierce. Y'all are the heart of this place. Make it a home, not a gate. Let folks feel seen. Ms. Rivera stepped up, her voice firm. We will, Mr. Jordan, starting tonight. Jake clapped, breaking the silence, and the staff joined in, a soft wave of applause. Tasha's live feed was trending worldwide. Hashtag Starlight Redemption. The Starlight Grill was reborn. But what would this mean for Claire? And for Malik's vision? Claire wiped her face, her hands steady now. Thank you, she said to Malik, her voice small but sincere. I don't deserve this chance, but I won't waste it. Malik nodded, his smile encouraging. You got this. Jake gave her a fist bump, his grin wide. You better not mess this up, he teased, lightening the mood. The staff laughed, the tension easing. Tasha's phone buzzed, her followers cheering. She's got a shot. Mr. Ellis leaned back, his voice low. He's planting seeds, not throwing punches. Mrs. Ellis nodded, her eyes bright. That's how you change a place. The room felt lighter, but the lesson wasn't over. What was Malik's final play? Malik walked to the center, his presence commanding yet warm. "This ain't just about tonight," he said, his voice ringing. "It's about tomorrow and every day after. Make Starlight Grill a place where everybody belongs." The staff nodded, some wiping tears, others standing taller. Miss Rivera's voice broke the silence. "We'll make you proud, Mr. Jordan." Tasha's live feed captured it all. Her voice choked. "Y'all, this is what leadership looks like." The chandeliers gleamed, casting a glow over the room. Claire's eyes shone with purpose, but the real test was coming. Would she keep her word? And what would Malik do next to cement this change? The Starlight Grill pulsed with a new heartbeat, the silence filled with hope. Malik's words had turned a mistake into a movement, a call to be better. Tasha's phone was a beacon, her followers chanting, #MakeItAHome. Mr. Ellis raised his glass one last time, his voice a quiet vow. He's done it again. Claire stood among the staff, her face set, ready to prove herself. The room looked to Malik, a man who'd rewritten the night with grace and truth. But this wasn't the end. It was a beginning. What would happen when the doors opened tomorrow? And how would Malik's vision reshape LA? Stick around. The best is yet to come. The Starlight Grill glowed softly, its chandeliers casting a warm halo over the now empty dining room. Malik Jordan stood at the glass doors, his hoodie and Nikes a quiet testament to the night's upheaval. The staff had dispersed, their hearts heavy with his words, "Make it a home." Claire lingered by the hostess stand, her eyes fixed on the floor. Tasha's phone, still buzzing from her viral live feed, sat silent as she watched Malik step into the LA night. Ellis and his wife rose, their faces lit with pride. The air hummed with possibility, a new chapter dawning. What would Malik's lesson mean for Starlight Grill? And how would this night ripple beyond these walls? Malik pushed through the doors, the cool LA breeze hitting his face. The city pulsed around him, neon signs flickering, cars humming down Sunset Boulevard. He walked slowly, his 7-foot frame cutting through the night like a beacon. His mind replayed the evening, Claire's shade, the staff's tears, his own story of South Central. "Kindness ain't loud," he murmured to himself, his voice blending with the city's rhythm. "It's steady. It's real." Tasha's live feed was still trending, hashtags like Starlight Redemption flooding Twitter. Malik's steps were deliberate, each one a promise. What was he thinking? And what would LA wake up to tomorrow? Back inside, Claire wiped down the hostess stand, her hands steadier now. Jake, stacking menus nearby, gave her a sidelong glance. "You good?" he asked, his tone soft. Claire nodded, her voice small. "I was such a fool, Jake. He could have fired me, but he gave me a chance." Jake grinned, nudging her. "Don't blow it, all right? You heard the man. Everybody gets a seat." Claire's lips twitched, a faint smile breaking through. She glanced at the empty dining room, imagining tomorrow's guests. "I won't blow it," she said, her voice firm. The chandeliers gleamed, a silent witness to her resolve. Was this Claire's new beginning, or just a fleeting moment? Tasha sat at her table, her phone glowing with notifications. Her live feed had hit 1 million views, comments pouring in. "Malik's a legend! This is why we stand." She opened Twitter, her fingers flying. "Tonight at Starlight Grill, I saw what real leadership looks like. Malik Jordan didn't just own the place, he owned the moment." #MakeItAHome. She hit send, the tweet soaring into the digital ether. Maya leaned over, her eyes bright. "You're blowing up, girl. This is bigger than LA." Tasha nodded, her voice hushed. "It's bigger than us." The city outside buzzed, ready to carry Malik's story. Where would it go next? Mr. Ellis and his wife stepped into the night, the cool air a relief after the intensity inside. "That boy's still got it," Mr. Ellis said, his voice thick with pride. Mrs. Ellis squeezed his arm, her pearls catching the streetlights. "He's not just a star, Henry. He's a light." Mr. Ellis chuckled, his eyes scanning the neon horizon. "Always was. Back in '98, I saw it. Heart bigger than his game." They walked toward their car, the city alive around them. The Starlight Grill stood behind, its glow softer now but stronger. Malik's lesson wasn't just for the staff. It was for LA, for the world. What would the old coach tell his players about this night? Malik paused at a corner, the neon sign of a 24-hour diner flickering above him. He thought of his younger self, the kid in worn-out sneakers, judged before he could speak. Tonight wasn't about proving them wrong. It was about showing them right. "Everybody deserves a seat," he said aloud, the words a vow. A passing couple glanced at him, recognizing his face. "Yo, that's Malik Jordan," the guy whispered, pulling out his phone. Malik smiled, waving them off, and kept walking. Tasha's tweet was trending nationwide, her words echoing his own. The city felt different tonight, like it was waking up. What would happen when the sun rose? Inside Starlight Grill, Claire grabbed a broom, sweeping the floor with a focus she hadn't had before. Miss Rivera watched from the bar, her stern face softening. "You're still here," she said, her voice surprised. Claire looked up, her eyes clear. "I want to earn my place, Miss Rivera, for real." Miss Rivera nodded, a rare smile breaking through. "Then start tomorrow. Fresh slate." Claire's heart lifted, the weight of her mistake lighter now. The empty dining room felt alive, its tables waiting for new stories. Tasha's tweet flashed on her phone, a reminder of the night's impact. Would Claire keep her promise? And how would Starlight Grill change? Tasha and Maya stepped outside, the LA night wrapping them in its electric hum. "This is going to be everywhere," Tasha said, scrolling through her phone. Her tweet had sparked a movement, replies pouring in from Chicago, Atlanta, New York. "We need more Maliks. Respect is universal." Maya grinned, slinging an arm around her. "You made this happen, Tash. You called it out." Tasha shook her head, her voice soft. "Nah, Malik did. I just held the mic." The city stretched before them, its lights a canvas for change. Mr. Ellis's car rolled by, his wave a quiet blessing. The Starlight Grill was a spark, and LA was catching fire. What would the world say tomorrow? Malik rounded a corner, the Starlight Grill fading behind him. The city's heartbeat matched his own, steady, hopeful, alive. He thought of Claire's tears, Tasha's passion, Mr. Ellis's pride. Tonight wasn't just a lesson. It was a seed planted in the heart of LA. "Kindness changes everything," he said, his voice lost in the night, but carried by the wind. Tasha's tweet glowed on screens across the country, a call to make every place a home. The Starlight Grill stood as a beacon. Its story just beginning. What would tomorrow bring? And how would you carry this lesson forward? Don't stop now. The world's waiting for your move.